Greetings. My name is Molina, and I'm the host of the Life Puro. In today's conversation, I speak to a longtime client of ours and friend named Doug Duhon. He's with All Wood Furniture. So with that, Doug, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Luis.
Well, glad to have you here. Yeah. So what we like to do, I know this is your first time with us in the podcast studio. What we like to do is offer you a cigar. So if you want to cut and light, help yourself. So
let's do it. So what are we smoking today?
So this is actually one of our brands called Lagniappe. It is a term that you typically hear in Louisiana, right? We know what Lagniappe means. It's a little bit of something else extra. And we decided to use that term for our own brand. So this cigar is made for us by Aganorsa out of Nicaragua. And this is a Churchill size. So yeah, feel free to cut and light it.
I'm very familiar with Aganorsa.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're one of our personal favorite brands. Companies, and they're out of Nicaragua, like I said. They're known for other lines like the JFR. That's a very well-known cigar line, which stands for just for retailers. So that's a cigar that, when it hit the market, it was more of a moderately priced cigar and a little higher quality. So it's been very successful I think it's been on the market now for maybe 15 years.
Yeah, I remember when it came out.
Yeah. So you've smoked those, any favorite wrappers? Because they offer that in several different variations, like a Connecticut, a Corojo, Maduro.
I've been really getting into I'm not sure the line, but they have like 4 different ones.
Okay.
The Maduro one, I love a lot.
Yeah. And they're also really famous for that, the Lunatic, the JFR Lunatic. Those like really Lunatic. Monster, like the 8x80s. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, before it was called Aganorsa Leaf, it was Casa Fernandez.
That's right.
And before that,
it was, oh man, you're putting me on the spot. Hold on.
Somebody told me the name the other day, and I said I had no idea.
Tropical. Yeah. So I think the story goes, and I know Cigar Aficionado has actually a good lengthy article about the founder, Eduardo Fernandez.
Okay.
So Mr. Fernandez is a Spaniard. He was involved in a pizza chain in Spain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his story is really interesting, actually. And, if anyone from Aganorsa, like Terrence or other people from Aganorsa, if I get the information wrong, Paul Palmer's another executive there at Aganorsa. Feel free to call in or, scold at me if I get the information wrong. But so Mr. Fernandez, he was in Spain, founded this like pizza chain. So after the Franco era, right? I think the 80s is when the Franco era ended. Yeah. He was a former leader, I guess, and there's a lot of controversy with him too. A lot of people would classify him as a right-wing, maybe fascist leader. And I don't know the full history of that, but anyway, that ended up kind of going away after his death, I think in the 80s. And so Spain started modernizing, becoming more westernized, and they didn't really have pizza chains like we did here, right, in the U.S. So Eduardo Fernandez, I think, helped found this like pizza chain that would deliver pizzas via motorcycle all around. I think he started in Madrid and then expanded all over Spain. And anyway, I think he sold his interests and he got out of that. And I don't know how he ended up in Nicaragua, but he did. And Aganorsa is basically the parent company that he started.
Okay.
And it's more of like agricultural commodity conglomerate. So they do other things too besides tobacco growing and cigar making. They, I think, are involved in cattle, growing other crops, things like that. But the cigar side of it is like their baby, right? They're like trophy. And so I think what ended up happening when he went to Nicaragua, he bought this other company that was already in existence, and I think they were called Tropical.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, because like the old packaging, like during that transition, and I think that was in the early 2000s when that happened, you could still see like Tropical, like the labeling with a lot of those old brands. Yeah. Do you remember any of those brands that you smoked back then?
I remember a lot of the brands. I started smoking mid-90s maybe, 96, 97. I know I told you the story before, but I was a non-smoker.
Okay.
Hardcore non-smoker till I was 30. Both my parents smoked cigarettes. My mom was the kind of person, cigarettes and coffee. That was her thing. And everybody would say, well, don't you want to quit? And she's like, no, I don't want to quit. Are you crazy? I love this.
Yeah.
She smoked, and she smoked a long time. And I was against it. I was like, Mom.
You're anti-tobacco. Yeah.
Anti. So my brother Dave got into cigars, my younger brother.
Okay.
He comes up to visit me in Dallas one day, and we go to this dancing establishment, and we stop at the liquor store to get liquor because it was BYOB, which I don't drink much either. But
and this is in Dallas?
This is in Dallas.
Okay.
So we go there, and there's some cigars in a little case on the side of the counter, which I never looked at before. You know, they're just invisible. Things you're not aware of, they're invisible to you.
Right.
He reaches in there, he said, give me about 10 of those. And I'm like, what's going on here, Dave? He goes, oh, we're getting some cigars.
Oh, man.
I'm like, I'm not smoking cigars. He goes, you don't have to smoke. And then I saw the price of them. I'm like, are you out of your mind? What's going on? They were punches. I don't remember what size. They were bigger than a Rothschild, but they were punches.
And back then, what was the price per stick?
I think it was like $4 something a piece.
Oh, man.
I was like, you lost your mind.
Yeah, that was expensive back then, yeah.
So, we go to the club that night, and then he's smoking. I'm like, man, that smells kind of good. All of my uncles, my great uncles on my dad's side, they were plumbers, and they smoked cigars. Okay. So I was used to that smell. And I'd collect all the bands as a kid and put them in a box.
Yeah.
So I collected bands long before I even thought of smoking a cigar. I wish I had those bands and knew what they were smoking. I don't know if they were Cubans, if they were cheap cigars, but they smoked a lot of cigars.
Okay.
And they were the guys that every time I saw them, they had a cigar on the side of their mouth,
Yeah.
So I said, man, that smells good. So Dave's like, go ahead and smoke one, man. I'm like, nah, ain't going to happen. So he's like, well, look, I'm smoking. You look stupid. Just put one in your mouth.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So put it in my mouth. I said, well, what do you do with it? He goes, we got to cut it. So he cut it for me. And I'm sitting there holding a cigar, and I was like, I look stupid. Light this thing up. So he lit it up for me, and I was like, oh, never smoked in my life.
Did you inhale it?
Not really. I didn't inhale it. I barely puffed on it.
Okay.
But after that first cigar, I was like, give me another one of those $4.50 cigar. He's like, yeah, come on, man.
Oh, man.
He goes, it's cheap over here, because in Lafayette where he was buying them, I guess, our Louisiana cigar tax.
Our excise tax is higher, yeah.
It probably was the same in 96, 97 as it is now. Or
yeah, that the Louisiana excise tax, from what I remember, hasn't changed. So it's always been 20% of invoice cost since, I think, like 73 or 78. So the tax rate hasn't changed. It's always been like that. But, and not to cut you off because I want to hear your story, but there's always talk in the legislature that, the anti-tobacco people that want to increase the tax. And our argument is, no, you don't need to mess with the rate. We see price increases every year.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a higher tax bill every year. You're going to generate more revenue every year without having to mess with it. And of course, we don't want that rate that high. We would love to see it go away because we're competing against Texas that only has a penny a stick. Yeah. And we're always competing against Texas and Florida, which doesn't have an excise tax. As soon as you get into
Florida, there's nothing, right?
There's nothing. And Texas is 1 cent. So a lot of retailers don't even charge that extra stick or extra penny, But anyway, to go back to your story, so you light up another one?
I don't remember how many we smoked. He smoked a lot.
Yeah.
He was done. When he was done, all the cigars were gone. But we went there, and it was a Saturday night. Sunday, we wake up. He goes, man, let's go back tonight. I'm like, let's go. So we went back the next night. I was game. Cut this thing up.
Oh,
I didn't
man.
know cut it.
From 0 to 60, just like that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I don't think I was, getting a lot. I definitely wasn't retrohaling, but I definitely wasn't inhaling either.
Okay.
And my experience with smoke was I played in bands and I was around, a lot
of tobacco and other stuff.
Tobacco, yeah. So I'm sure I inhaled a lot of it over the years, contact buzz, whatever. But I never did it, So he comes back to Louisiana, and 2 days later I'm sitting there going, man, I just can't stop thinking about that cigar.
Oh man.
So I did what anybody would do. I went to 7-Eleven and I said, give me a pack of those, a pack of these, I got like $12 worth of cigars, there was about 20 cigars.
Oh, man.
So I went in my backyard. I had a big backyard with a big tree. My wife said, what are you doing? I'm I'm going to smoke a cigar. And she's like, what? You're smoking a cigar? I'm like, yeah, I think I am.
Mr. Anti-Tobacco.
So
now you're in the
I
culture.
sat on a bench with the paper bag and I'd pull a cigar out. I went to cut it, had no cutter. I was, I forgot that step. Oh, this one's already cut. Nice. Lit that thing up and like, what is this? Threw it in the yard. Go to the next one. I had probably blunts in there, King Edwards, all the 7-Eleven cigars. You know, 7-Eleven's big still in Texas. So at the end of that, I called Dave. I'm like, Dave, man, I want to get some cigars. No, it's not the same. He goes, dude, you don't buy these cigars at 7-Eleven. You got to go to the cigar store or go back to that liquor store, you know?
Yeah.
So I went to the cigar store and I was like, look, I have no idea how much these cigars cost. I just need some cigars.
Yeah.
And I don't know what kind. I just know my brother turned me on to a punch. So it was a female tobacconist, and she's like, gave me 2 Rothschilds. How much are these? And at the time, Rothschilds were what, $2 something a piece?
Yeah,
and
back then, yeah.
you could buy a box of 100 for $100 or something.
I think the Punch Rothschilds were always packaged in 50 count.
50
boxes,
count,
which is
yeah, it
higher
was
than
50
average.
count
Yeah.
For $100, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, let's do a little more because I know myself. I'm going to jump in. I'm jumping in.
Man.
So I think I ended up getting, I don't know, $50 worth that day, which was a lot of cigars, all kinds. And I started smoking them, and they were good. But I came across a Padron Magnum, I think it was.
Okay. Yeah.
It was like the turning point that I was hooked. And it was like having a chocolate cake and all this flavor and everything. And it surpassed all the other cigars, the punches, everything. And then the next cigar I smoked was a Fuente. That was my 2 cigars for a long time. And I know I showed you my band book where I collect the bands and put them in a book and go back and look. And I wish I could do it now. I collect the bands, but I don't put them in the book because of time. But I can flip through and see the trends that I went through and the cigar changes, all the brands that came and gone. You know, when the 90s were a boom.
That's right.
There were so many cigars, and at the time, relational to other things. I don't know if they were expensive or not expensive, but I'd see all these cigars and they'd put them on sale because after the boom, there were too many trash cigars, basically.
That's right.
So I'd buy some of those and smoke them, and I was like, well, what is this? You know, just all these brands. And I love seeing those bands. I don't remember every cigar, obviously, because I've smoked a lot in my life, but some of those bands in there, I go, I remember that cigar, I remember where I was. And it might have been a Padron 2000 that tasted like the best, you know, Padron 45 today, you know?
Yeah.
And then got hooked.
So I love talking to clients like you that have been smoking, you know, from the 90s or even older, but especially around the boom. Do you remember smoking the La Gloria Cubana back then?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that?
Once I got into La Gloria, I smoked a lot of those and his other brand.
That's right.
He had
What are the
another
other
brand.
ones?
I used to smoke one a day going to work. They revived it, but I don't think it's revived by the same people.
Yeah, so I always like asking that question with La Gloria because that was when Ernesto Perez Carrillo, who is the owner of EP Carrillo Cigars now, he owned that brand. And that really, during the 90s, to me, that was one of the brands of the 90s, La Gloria Cubana back then. Yeah. And that's when he had them made in Miami. He had a little factory in Miami.
Okay.
And I can't remember the other brands that he had. I'll think about it. But
well, I was at the Tobacco Gallery in Dallas. I don't know if it's still there or not. Okay. But I go there a lot, and I got to be friendly with the guys in there. And a guy walks in with a box of La Glorias, some Churchills, and he had one missing. And he said, "Look, I bought this box. I don't like these cigars." So I was like, "Man, we don't buy back cigars." So he said, "Doug, come here. You want some good cigars? Buy these cigars from this guy." And the guy's like, "I don't know, give me $25, $50. I don't care. I just don't like them."
Okay.
He wasn't really a smoker. I don't even know why he got them.
Yeah.
So I looked in there, and the wrappers were yellowed.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I don't know how old they were, but I was like, if you say so, I'll take a chance. I bought that box. I smoked through that box, some of the best cigars.
Nice. Yeah. And I can see too, you were talking about Padron. That did it for you when you smoked that Padron.
The Padron.
Yeah, just locked you in the industry, huh?
Oh, definitely so.
What about Puros Indios? Do you remember smoking those back then?
Yes, I smoked some of
the
those.
green bands?
The green bands. Yep. My favorite were the Bahias.
Oh yeah, Tony Bahia.
The
Yeah.
Bahias were great until they came out with the Maduro.
Okay.
They had the Bahia Gold. I smoked a lot of those. Those were great. It was
So
from
I
Costa
said
Rica.
Tony. I said Tony Bahia. It's I think the owner or
Borani?
founder. Yeah, Borani. I think was his name. And
From Costa Rica.
I think they were made.
Yeah.
He was definitely another big player during the boom time. But to me, and we've never had a relationship with them, nor do I know the man. But just hearing about some stories about that brand, I think he kind of went the way of like more of a catalog brand. So I think people can still find Bahia.
I think
BA.
JR ended up buying it.
Yeah, maybe they bought the brand too.
rebranded it,
Yeah. And I'm sure people in the industry could reach out to us and kind of substantiate that. But that was another big brand of the 90s too. And he kind of went, went by the wayside, like a lot of companies back then did,
So around 2004, my mom got sick. So I started making trips down, and me and Dave started smoking a lot of cigars.
Okay.
Drinking a little whiskey here and there. And then I got interested in his wood business. He had a business, and I was just casually, I'd come by, and he was always working, always working. I'd come in for Christmas, Thanksgiving, he'd be working. So I'd go to his shop, and it just amazed me what he was doing in there. Dave's a genius with wood. As far as not being educated in that, he learns and he figures things out. He masters things.
So y'all didn't come from like a family of carpenters or woodworkers, huh?
Dave learned from building skateboard ramps with, borrowed wood from construction sites. He would build these big half pipes in the backyard.
Oh, man.
He took some shop classes, and then he worked for a woodworker for a little while. And then he had a need to make some money, and he had a kid on the way. Mm-hmm. He started all wood. I think he had like $500 and a table saw, and he made it happen.
Wow.
And he built it up. So I came on board about 2005, and it was nice to be back home because I'd been away for about 20 years.
Okay.
So being with my brother almost every day, smoking cigars at lunch, after work, hanging out, just enjoying each other's company and building the brand. Mm-hmm. So you spent a lot of time building the brand, and then.
And where is the shop? Where was the first shop?
The first shop when I came back, he was in Karen Crow. He had a big shop in Karen Crow, and then he had just opened the retail store in Lafayette off Pinhook.
Okay. Yeah. So for people who don't know, watching from outside Louisiana, Karen Crow is what, like a suburb of Lafayette?
It's north of Lafayette.
Okay. Okay.
And then we had
the heart of Acadiana, the Cajun for people again
Cajun
outside
people.
Louisiana, out of Cajuns.
And if Dave was here today, you'd hear a nice Kunas accent.
Nice.
So, we had a retail store in Pinhook.
Okay.
It was the main drag on that part of town across from the Hilton, and we built it up out of a little store. We still have the store. We just expanded it.
Okay.
So we have the whole store now full of cypress tables and all that. So as we were building the brand and the company was growing, we opened a store in Baton Rouge, and we opened another one in Lafayette. But during that time, on Thanksgiving, I'm not sure the year, but the building, our main facility, burned to the ground.
What?
It was an older building. It was full of cypress, full of furniture. It was around, Christmas order time where we have a lot of orders. Christmas is a big time of year. Yeah. We were ahead of schedule that year, so we had a lot of customers' furniture in there ready to be delivered, burned to the ground.
Oh, no.
Total loss, the building. The fire, the guy who came and inspected, he goes, we call this a blackout because we can't even tell where this fire started. Fortunately, my friend was a photographer. He saw the first smoke. He lived across the street. His instinct was to pull out the camera and take pictures. So he had pictures from the first smoke coming out to flattened. Gave that to the investigator, and he said, I see where the fire started. It didn't start where I thought it would in the finishing, because finishing has chemicals and all that. It started near where our dust collection system was. So it could have been somebody gathering up dust for their garden and threw a cigarette. It could have been a mouse in the building. It could have been anything. So it was to the ground. And all the employees looked. We had about 20, 25 employees. They were like, well, we're out of a job now. Me and Dave looked at each other. It was on Thursday. It burned to the ground. Friday, we showed up there. We cut 2 Patron 2000. We said, I looked at him. I said, well, let's get busy. What else are we going to do?
Right.
So we sent everybody home. And me and him started thinking. And we lived off Padron 2000s for months.
Yeah.
We were buying boxes of it, just inhaling those things. And that got us through. 2000s, great cigars. And then...
yeah, the classic. I think it's like a 5x50 format, right? Yeah.
Just the perfect size.
Mm-hmm.
So we were smoking a lot. We got our business re-engineered. We moved to another building that we had. We retooled everything. We put everybody in one shop. Everybody was on top of each other, but we were able to make it work the way Dave's ingenuity was, where put this machine here, they can access it here and do that.
Plus, you've had the experience, right? You knew like how to improve on it if you had to start again.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we did that. A couple of years later, our finishing shop, which was out of the building, burned to the ground.
Oh, my gosh.
Electrical fire of some sort. Man. So, you know, in business, when things burn down, people think, oh, they're making money. They're doing it.
I know.
No.
Right.
When you're underinsured, it hurts you badly. And to rebuild, you know, every time we saw something burn, you know, it was like, there's our retirement. There's our retirement. Mm-hmm. So we started smoking the other half of our retirement to cope. You know what I mean?
Right. That's a good strategy. Yeah.
So we did that. And then I think another brand that entered our little world was CAO when the CAO Red dropped. Do you remember that one?
Yep. La Anniversaire.
Yeah.
Was it the Maduro or... Yeah, that was before CAO
Maduro.
got bought out. Yeah.
It was before they got bought out.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And
that was when the Oshners owned it. Yeah.
As I look through my book, you see a lot of Fuente, a lot of Padron. I got into some Cubans for a while, a lot of Cubans, you know, a lot of random brands.
Yep.
And then all the pages turned red for a little while because all the red brands. You know, I talked to the general rep about that brand.
Okay.
And he was kind of explaining to me why they were so good, but how they were so inconsistent because the blender had it all up here. You didn't have anything written down. So what's the blend at that point, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the backstory on the CAO is very intriguing too. So when the Oshners owned it, it was founded by Chano A. Oshner.
Because it was an expansion brand, right? It was a newer company that came into the market.
Yep. They were basically, they benefited from the boom as well. So Chano, he Turkish descent. I don't know if he was born in Turkey or born in the States. I think he started out as either a pipe maker or a humidor maker. So obviously another kind of craftsman. Yeah. A little connection there. But then the boom hit and he saw just the potential of cigars. So he got into that side of the business. But he never owned his own factories. He always outsourced it.
Okay.
And so that's where like some of the inconsistencies come about because he never really had full control. Not to say it was a bad cigar. I mean, it's legendary, right? But at one point, even Perdomo made CAO cigars.
Okay.
And at another point, like depending on the line, some of them were made in Costa Rica. We actually have a box of I forgot the format, but it's like an A format. You know, those long, like 9-inch, that had stamp made in Costa Rica. We still have like a few singles just in our vault, but over the years, they just had inconsistent issues. But also because they use so many factories, their profiles are like all over the place. So, you know, a fan could find some CAO that they loved. But that's interesting that you were into that brand back then too. Because it's legendary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the kind of guy, if something's going to be really good, I'll accept some not so good stuff.
Right.
A little inconsistency. I'd rather that than a flat brand that's just consistent, but not the exceptional cigars. And CO was definitely that brand at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even for a minute, a lot of CAO was made in the same factory that Tarano owned when the family Tarano was still in existence in Nicaragua. So yeah, it's and then they got bought out, I think in like 2000. That would have been like 2007, I think, or 2006 when STG now General Cigar bought them out. But they've gone through a few iterations, but now CAO is very consistent, still like very sought after. But it's, you know, I call it CAO version 2.0, right? It's not like 1.0, which I'm not saying one's better than the other, but they're different, but they're both good, you know?
Well, the rep explained to me how it went down.
Okay.
And he said now the tobacco is so consistent because we have, you know, the resources to put all this tobacco together and keep it consistent.
Yeah, that's right.
And the whole cigar production has always been fascinating to me, just from from the seed all the way up to me smoking it, you know.
But I think you, especially for you, could appreciate it, you know, with your line of work in woodworking and furniture, wood craftsmanship, because that's integral in our industry too, right? Think about the cigar boxes. I've always been fascinated and had admired, you know, woodworkers just because of that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny and relevant that there's connections between, you know, your trade and your love of cigars and vice versa. So
because just about every day, Dave and I have our end of day meeting
with a cigar.
It usually starts with a cigar, you know.
Yeah. No, it's very appropriate. Yeah. And that's what I love about the cigar, right? It's not like cigarettes or even like the 7-Eleven brands that you tried out initially. This isn't an addiction, right? Like this helps professionals meditate, focus on what they got to do, even in the face of adversity of like your buildings getting burned. I love that you and your brother just like sat around, smoked and cigars and thought about, okay, what do we got to do?
Came up with a lot of ideas. Mm-hmm. Now the difference between me and Dave, I do a lot of computer work. Okay. When I'm working, I can't smoke. I'm focused on. Dave can build and smoke.
Oh wow.
Dave can do anything. He's usually when he's working, he's smoking a cigar. And I was like, man, it reminds me of uncles, you know, just doing some plumbing and having a cigar on the side of their mouth and doing it. I just can't do it. Right. I'd rather make the time and do the cigar. Yeah. So in the afternoon, a lot of time, he's nubbing his. I'm like, why am I not smoking here? He's doing all the work here.
Yeah. That's also a difference between I found between Europeans and like the typical American and how they smoke a cigar. Europeans, you kind of subscribe to that philosophy. Let me wait until I can sit down and enjoy the cigar. Whereas like the traditional American, he can smoke a cigar while he's cutting the grass,
golfing, whatever.
Yeah.
I
don't think one is right or wrong, but I just found it always funny the differences. You know?
My friend Sean Thibodeau, he smokes while he's cutting the grass. I'm like, how do you do that, man?
Yeah. How about Sean? I hadn't heard from him.
He's doing good. He's working all the time. You know, he's putting a lot of police cars together where he's at, but he's smoking all day long. He's still smoking, huh? So he's enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember in our old store, you and him would come in together all the time, and it was just always lovely having people from Lafayette or Acadiana come to visit us too. Yeah, I've always loved the people in that region, and I need to make more time to explore that region.
And just for instance, Sean and I were friends as kids. I met him in like the 7th grade, and then we get to adulthood, we get married. I moved to Dallas. We lost touch with each other, and he smoked cigarettes, and I was like, Sean, cut those cigarettes out. Yep. I'd get headaches from them. Right. And I went to school with him every day, and he was driving, so I had to abide by what he wanted to do, and he would smoke his cigarettes. And then later on, we get back together when I moved back and rekindle the friendship, and I'm like, he's like, you smoking? I'm like, yeah, I kind of am, huh? So I'm like, here, come have a cigar with me. So gave him a cigar. And I don't remember the first cigar I gave him, but I usually do something stupid to them, like a Padron Exclusivo as their first one. And I'm like, oh my God, this is good. Yep. And then they have to figure out how to make it work after that. Yeah. Yep. So him and I started smoking, and what I learned, I was I'm a shy person and not real social. So a lot of times I wouldn't get to know people that I needed to know. After I started smoking, a cigar and a conversation go hand in hand.
Oh yeah. The ultimate icebreaker. Especially like when the other person smokes cigars, and instant kinship right there. Mm-hmm.
So I met a lot of interesting people, had a lot of good conversations over cigars. Mm-hmm. My friend Robert, Robert, he's been in your store. Yeah, me and him have a thing where I met him in Dallas, and he moved to Austin. I moved to Lafayette, so we have a 6-hour distance between us. And usually it's an excuse to get together. Well, I'll come see you. I got 6 hours of smoking when I get there, and we'll just smoke and roll the whole time. Yeah. And we're big in the music, so we'll wait on a new album that we're both into and go, let's wait and let's hear it both for the first time with a good cigar and driving on a nice road, the scenery, everything. So there's albums that I listen to, and I'm like, yeah, I remember that Padron we were smoking. I remember we were on that street, and he's got a great memory. So he's like, yeah, we were doing this and that. So we try to do that, as much as we can. He's got grandchildren in Oklahoma, so it kind of stretches us out. But we still get together and smoke and roll is what we call it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And is that how you met him, through your mutual love of music?
Music. I met him through another friend from Louisiana. Okay. I had a friend, Troy, and just about all my friends in the music was through Troy.
Okay.
And Troy said, man, I know these two guys, they write songs, and I think you'd be into their approach to songwriting also. We got together, and we had like a little, not a band, but we'd get together and play their songs. And it turned into a monthly thing. It turned into a family thing. It turned into a cigar event once I got them all on board with the cigars, you know.
Yeah.
Troy still doesn't smoke, so.
Yeah.
But the other guys do. So a lot of times when we get together, we're on somebody's back porch, smoking a cigar, playing music, listening to music.
So can you expand on that? Like, what kind of music are you into?
All kinds of music.
Okay.
I listen to, I grew up on classic rock like most people my age, and I listened to a lot of jazz, and then got really into metal.
Okay.
You know, still like a lot of metal, but you know, I listen to a lot of different things, and so I can go from listening to death metal one day to avant-garde jazz the next day to classical. When somebody tells you they listen to everything, they really don't. When I tell you that, trust me. Yeah, I listen to everything.
You listen to every genre.
I like just about everything.
Come on. All right. Yeah, no, because like you always hear that from people like, oh, I listen to everything, but like then you really try to get into the weeds and figure out like what.
That's it. I get into the weeds. I'm such a nerd that I get into it in the back catalog and all that.
Okay.
I can't remember cigar names like the sizes and all that, but I know producers and who played on the old albums and all that. So,
what do you think about Rick Rubin?
I like what Rick Rubin did for the industry, because when I was in the metal, all genres start heading a certain way and they're going to burn out.
Okay.
Rick Rubin came in, and with metal especially, he was a rap producer. He took on this band Slayer and he said, let's do this. And the first thing he did was, those drums are not going to work like that. He's the one that pulled back all the reverb and production on the drums and got raw drums in your face. And it kind of changed the genre for a while. And it's a legendary album. And then he moved on, all kinds of genres.
Yeah, he's been involved in a lot of different genres, huh?
And what I like about him, his love of music. He's a music lover first.
Okay.
That's why he got Cash in a room and said, play me some songs. And then 6 albums later, he's just a fan of music.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect of him. I see pictures of his house, and if it's real, he's got a nice stereo with 2 speakers and a place to sit. That's it. And some records,
Is that like a purist kind of?
Kind of a purist. It's a big, probably multi-million-dollar house with 2 speakers, a nice turntable, an amp, and a place to sit.
Yeah.
I don't know if he smokes or not. Probably not, but his music would sound better if he smoked.
I
you know what I mean?
He should. I mean, he looks like, or looks like the type that he would love cigars, right? I mean, just very purist. And I don't know like his whole story, but what I've heard about, I've really admired, especially like with the projects like you mentioned with Johnny Cash and Trent Reznor.
Chili Peppers, the LL Cool J, the old rap stuff.
Yeah. No, it's a very intriguing person. Well, and I bring him up because I just found out he has a podcast, I guess, that he started producing and putting out. So you need to check that out.
Yeah, check that out.
Yeah.
It's got some interesting stuff on there.
So let's change gears here. Let's talk about this elephant in the room. You want to explain it, or you want me to kind of give the backstory to the viewer?
We can both explain it.
So what do we got here?
We have a big humidor. It'll probably hold about 250 cigars.
Yeah.
Probably more if you're not going with a long Churchill.
Yeah.
And you came to me and said, look, we got a project. Let me know if you can do it. It was before the holidays, which is our busiest season. Worst time to get us to do something, you know. We're trying to get orders fulfilled. And our goal every year is to try to get enough orders in there, get them done, and give our whole crew a week off so they can be with their families and take a break.
Okay.
So imagine your store with 1 week missing. I'm sure you had that when we moved all the humidors in here.
That's right.
It's not an easy.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to mention that too. Yeah.
It's not an easy pill to swallow, but we do it, and we try to do it every year. And since COVID, businesses, it's just different doing business post-COVID than pre-COVID. Every aspect of it, getting supplies, getting people to do things, is just totally different. Customers buy different ways now.
Still hasn't normalized, huh? You're like in this new world.
I don't think it will ever normalize.
Yeah. Or pre-COVID, it's not.
And then what coincided with that, all advertising changes. I mean, having a podcast is a new way of advertising.
That's right.
That is going to reach a lot more people than, say, a newspaper ad or something
right.
like that. TV, who watches TV? Radio, who watches radio? So we're constantly trying to figure out how do we get this message to people. And every single day we get people in the store going, wow, I can't believe y'all make this stuff. You know, and people think it's phenomenal.
Are you guys on Instagram?
We do some Instagram, we do some Facebook, we do different things. So just the marketing aspect of it. We have the product. We can do just about anything. We just did a bunch of conference tables for a new electrical co-op, and they were huge tables. But he came in, he had an idea. I worked with him on it, did it. We've done huge projects like that, which is nice. Because post-COVID, a lot of that wasn't happening. People were just coming and buying tables and little pieces of furniture. But now they're coming in and going, look, I want to deck my whole room out with bookcases. And I'll work with them, do a CAD drawing, get it done. So when you came to me, I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And I'm thinking a box, you know, humidor, little box. You know, the nature of it is going to be a gift and all. So I pitched it to Dave, and Dave's like, yeah, let's do it. No problem. So once we started getting into it, we started getting in the hurdles. We wanted to do a dovetail box, but our dovetail machine burned years ago, and we just never replaced it because our furniture doesn't require a lot of dovetails for our furniture. Cypress tables are our main thing.
So what's dovetail for the inexperienced newbie?
The joinery where the it's the joinery where the pieces of wood meet. It's dovetailed in instead of just, you know, nailed together.
Yeah. And what we're going to do for the viewers, especially those people who consume us through YouTube or Spotify, we're going to do like some B-roll footage and really get some close-ups of this. But yeah, no, the dovetails are like like these edging pieces, right? Where two pieces kind of connect together.
Yeah, two pieces got to connect. And you said, it's a Louisiana product. You want something from Louisiana. You wanted cypress.
That's right.
Great. So what we did, we wanted to go ahead and really do the cypress, and without, putting it everywhere. We have some nice pecky in here, which is very, very popular now. You'll probably see it on a lot of walls. People do whole walls with this.
Okay.
And it's a fungus that grows in the tree. And the old timers tell me when they were harvesting the basin of cypress trees, they would take all this pecky wood, cut it up, throw it in a pile, and at the end of the day, they would take the good wood and burn the pecky. Now you have to pay extra for pecky to get it.
What?
You know? And what
so that's a desirable feature now.
It's a desirable
it's beautiful.
feature.
Look, the texture. Yeah.
Yeah, and all this peckiness. So I wanted to put some of that in there, and then the color. You know, when cypress furniture used to be made, it was just clear. They'd put a clear coat on it, and over time, it would yellow up. So when cypress furniture was made, they'd take a brush and put some shellac on it. But over the years, that would yellow up and kind of give it what everybody thinks is cypress. What Dave did, he came in and worked extensively with cypress and saw the opportunity to do a product that's going to have a certain color to it. So we have a lot of different finishes that people just love. This one, we went lighter with it just to show, cypress.
So basically, not to cut you off, we had a client come in. He works with the Jeff Landry administration. And for people outside Louisiana, we just elected a new governor, Jeff Landry. He was the attorney general before the election. And so the staffer came up to us. He's been a longtime client of ours and asked me, look, Lou, I want to gift Governor Landry or Governor-elect Landry a nice gift, a humidor, a custom humidor. Can you help me out with that? So I'm like, oh, man. Like, honestly, it would have been cheaper to go through like Latin America, but I really thought for this project, it should be someone from Louisiana, and I kind of pitched it back to him. Like that was what we envisioned, but it's not going to be cheap. Right. But like looking from the finished product, I mean, it's worth it. I mean, it's such a heavy, just solid piece. So it's a humidor. And for people who don't know what a humidor is, it's basically the storage box that houses cigars. So we approached you and asked you, hey, can you help us out with this? Like we need this project. So, yeah, you guys have knocked it out the ballpark with this piece.
Yeah, Dave had fun. He did a lot of. My daughter built it.
Okay.
And then Dave came in and started the routing on it and everything. Mm-hmm. And he had fun doing it. And he probably smoked a lot of cigars and drank a lot of whiskey while doing it, or wine, whatever he was drinking. So he knocked it out the park on that.
And so, yeah, let's see the other features. So we got the state seal that you engraved on top. Originally, they wanted to put governor, the text governor on this front piece, but he changed his mind, and the client suggested putting the 57, which represents that Jeff Landry is going to be the 57th governor of Louisiana. And then what do we have here?
That's the Lafayette flag.
That's a Lafayette flag, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is his signature. So I started looking for the artwork and learned a little bit about it. And then this is the state seal, of course.
Mm-hmm. So you open it up. So the outside, like you said, is Louisiana cypress.
Yep.
And then the interior, what makes it a good and a real humidor is that it's lined with what?
This is Spanish cedar.
Okay.
And right now it's raw Spanish cedar. What's going to happen
I can
is...
smell that, yeah.
yeah. I was telling you earlier that when Dave was planing the Spanish cedar to a certain thickness to do all this, my daughter was building tables at the time, and she looks over and goes, "What is that smell?" It took her to her childhood when I first started smoking.
Yeah.
She was born in 96, and by 2000, she knew what a cigar was.
Yeah.
And she said, "Dad, that just took me back to my childhood." I'm like, "Yeah, it took me back too, just smelling, because I don't smell that much anymore."
Yeah.
So it's raw Spanish cedar in here. It's going to have to be seasoned.
Right.
With what, an 80-20 solution?
So what we always recommend for people who buy a new humidor, whenever a client gets purchases a brand new humidor, it's usually bone dry, right? So the interior has to be saturated with enough moisture, water, to help regulate and stabilize the environment that you're looking for. So Bova, that's the name of the brand, makes this awesome pack that takes all the guesswork and all the labor out of it. All you got to do is get an 84% relative humidity Bova pack and just place it inside the humidor and keep it closed. They say at least 2 weeks. I usually like to go a little bit longer, maybe like 3 weeks.
That's what I feel, about 30 days.
Yeah, 2 to 3 weks. Yeah. But you got to, if you buy the right amount of packs, right? So for this one, we'd guess it's probably going to be a 200 count. They have different gram variations, like sizes. This one, I think you can get away with like 320 grams.
Now, how often will that have to be changed? Is it a long-term thing? Or
so with seasoning, the seasoning step, if you do it right,
the
just
next
once. Yeah. So after that 2 to 3 weeks, you toss the 84% packs, and then you can replace it with the Bova 72%, 75%. So Bova says that cigars are good anywhere between 65% up to 75% relative humidity.
And some people have a preference.
Yeah, it just depends,
drier.
right? Yeah, if you like it on the drier end or in the middle or on the wetter side, that's personal preference. You've always heard about the golden rule in our industry, which refers to the 70-70 rule. It's just easier to remember, right? So that means 70% relative humidity at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. But really the key is anywhere between 65 and 75%. And you don't want the temperature above 75 degrees. You really want it like at room temperature, whatever, however you feel comfortable, that's good for cigars too. And so everyone needs to season their humidor first, no cigars in it, let it season. After the 2 to 3 weeks, you can toss those 84% packs. Then you can put the packs that you like. So let's say you like it on the drier side, 65 or 69% would be good. And those packs will last you about 3 to 4 months, they say.
Okay. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. And the beauty of Bova, as long as it packs, you can touch it, right? As long as it feels jelly, it's still good. Once it hardens up, that means it's expended its moisture, because what it's doing is releasing moisture through that membrane. Kind of like, you ever seen those food desiccant packs? Yeah. What those little packs do is absorb. Yeah, don't eat those. They absorb moisture. The Bova packs work the opposite, where they release moisture in the environment, and it's a two-way system. So what that means is, if for some reason, let's say you open up your humidor, you close it, and it captures excess moisture in the outside air, and let's say it's 80% now in here, which is too high, those packs will actually absorb that excess moisture to bring it back to that range. So it's an awesome product, because that's what you want. You don't want fluctuation of humidity. Because what that does is, cigars are like sponges. They're going to expand and contract with whatever the environment's doing. So if there's a lot of that going on, it's going to rip the wrapper, which is why a lot of people, when they maybe put a dry cigar in a really extreme or higher moisture environment, you'll see cracks because that filler tobacco expands faster than the wrapper and it can crack and put stress on that wrapper. So that's why I love Boveda. I don't even need a hygrometer. You know, the hygrometer.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, the hygrometer is that device that tells you what the relative humidity is. But you don't even need that with Boveda because they're engineered to like maintain it in that plus. They say there's a variance of like plus minus 3%. So that's not bad at all. And so the client had actually asked us to for you to design this this false bottom that you just lifted up. That because now there's a space, and we'll show a better video in a minute. What allows us to do is lift that tray, and you can put the packs underneath that tray with the holes. Yeah, and then you can put that tray back. That way, that those packs aren't in the way of your cigar storage.
Yeah,
and that's it. Yeah, it's a simple but like elegant product here.
Yeah, years ago, back in the 90s, when I got into cigars, I lived in a 100-year-old house.
Okay.
And if you ever lived in a house that old, you might have one room that's cold, one room that's warm, depending on what kind of air conditioners. We didn't have a central air in it.
Okay.
So parts of the year would get hot in some rooms or too cold.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived by a igloo door for a while. I took a big old igloo, lined it with cedar, and made these Credos with some Tupperwares. Had 2 or 3 hygrometers in there, and I spent a few years just always worried about my cigars.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go on a trip and tell my wife, okay, make sure you go rotate my cigars.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I quit storing cigars. I let you store my cigars, and I'll come buy them from you.
Yeah.
So I just buy a cigar that tastes good when I cut it and light it right out the store.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's funny because there's 2 types of customers I've realized over the years. Those who buy in bulk because they want to maintain and stock their own humidors, but other clients are like those who treat their cigar consumption like a daily cup of coffee. Yeah. They'll just go to the shop more frequently, but buy like maybe 1 or 2 cigars at a time or 5 because they don't want to have to bother, storing and maintaining the humidity. But now with products like Boveda, they made it so easy where you can do it on your own. And just to give more clarification to the listener who doesn't know cigars or is just curious, you don't need to spend big bucks on a piece like this. I mean, like you said, you can get a Tupperware or a igloo container, anything that creates a seal, so there's no exchange of air inside and out.
Yeah. Now the difference between Tupperware, which is sealed.
Yeah, right.
You really can't leave your cigars in there for a long time without opening it. You have to let it.
You've got to let it breathe, yeah.
The wood is more organic, so while it's wood and it does have a thin finish on it, it's going to let the thing breathe and do its thing.
But I've noticed, like, the design of your model here, the thickness of the Spanish cedar is really nice. I mean, I've seen some cheap humidors coming out of China that they only have, like, a veneer, like a sheet.
Yeah.
And to me, that's not good.
You got to have some body in it to let that soak in there and really season that thing. Now, what in your opinion, what's the aging process and having the cedar in there? What's this wood do to the cigars?
So there's a few things what I've learned over the years that goes on and why it's preferable to use Spanish cedar if you're going to use wood, right? You can use a neutral aromatic material, say like glass. Some people I've seen old humidors from the 50s that are lined with almost like a ceramic material because they don't give off odors. So that's the key is if you're going to use wood, it's got to be Spanish cedar because something about the aromatic qualities of Spanish cedar are conducive and efficient for aging cigars for the long term. I remember during the boom, there were some cheap fly-by-night humidor companies that I've seen that used even pine. I still have one of those humidors.
Oh,
they lined it with pine, and if you know, pine's
smoking pine salt at that point.
It's too aromatic, it's too strong, and cigars are like sponges. So they're going to pick up whatever the smells are in its vicinity. So if you age your cigars in pine-lined humidors, they're going to smell or smoke like pine.
And I noticed if you buy a cigar in a tube, most of the time it's going to have a little thin cedar in it.
That's right.
And there's some cigars that wrap it in cedar.
That's right.
For the same purposes.
So that's number one. It's the aromatic dynamics that are really good for aging cigars, which is why you need Spanish cedar if you're going to go with wood. The other is the hygroscopic qualities of Spanish cedar. And what I mean by that is that Spanish cedar can withstand excess moisture without rotting or growing mold. Unlike, I guess, other woods that aren't as good for that. And the third component or reason why we use Spanish cedar in our industry is that it's a good deterrent for Lasioderma sericorni, which that's the scientific name for the tobacco beetle.
Tobacco beetle.
Yeah.
I've dealt with a few of those in my time.
Have you? Yeah. Oh, really?
I've had a beetle rip through buying some of those cigars on clearance, the boom cigars, bring them in and not knowing, rip through a humidor. They'll rip through a humidor pretty quickly.
That's right. So the thinking is that the Spanish cedar kind of helps deter the beetle, but like, I don't know if that's really true because to your point, we've had some outbreaks over the years. When I say outbreak, it's nothing like really monumental. When I see one, I think that's an outbreak.
Yeah.
The industry's done a good job of minimizing any of these tobacco beetle hatches, which people don't realize. This beetle it's a natural occurrence. A lot of these beetles will lay eggs on tobacco, and they'll just stay dormant, not be a problem.
And but the temperature rising could hatch those beetles.
Yep, exactly. Or I think what I've heard usually it's high temperature. So again, that's another reason why to keep your cigars under 75 degrees Fahrenheit. There's two reasons. It prevents beetle hatchings, and number two, it prevents fermenting of the tobacco. If it gets too hot, the tobacco can start to ferment again, and the byproduct is more of an ammonia taste, which is obviously you don't want that. So anyway, great cigar companies now or factories will actually freeze the tobacco leaves. They'll go through like a step where they kind of flash freeze the tobacco. So it cracks any eggs that may have been hatched. So it prevents any beetles from happening. But I mean, because it's not truly organic of a product, but it's not as like chemically laced with like other commodities. Sometimes you'll see a beetle hatch. And so I don't think it's a bad thing because to me it's more natural. But I'm not saying you want to see a beetle hatch because, like you said, they'll turn your cigars into Swiss cheese. They'll eat through cigars, and you'll see these little these pin-sized holes. So one tip, what I like to do is if I'm buying an old cigar and I want to make sure there hasn't been a tobacco beetle damage, you'll visually inspect it first, right? If you see like this perfect pin-sized hole, it could be a beetle. But what you do is sometimes it just might be a natural tear. I'll tap on that cigar, and if it's a beetle, this like fine powder of tobacco comes out.
Yeah, because he's in there chewing away at your goods.
Yeah, exactly. But what I tell people is if you do find a tobacco beetle, don't freak out. Just take all your cigars, put them in their own container, and then put them in the freezer. And so that'll kill naturally off any tobacco beetles, crack any eggs. But then you got to bring it back, I think I like to leave it like for at least 3 days in the freezer, maybe a week, and then put it in the fridge so it can kind of acclimate, slowly back to normal temperature. And then you can put it, after maybe like a week or two in the fridge, you can put it back in your humidor. But also what I like to do is if you find a tobacco beetle in your humidor, I'll use compressed air to, clean out the humidor, make sure no eggs are left. Make sure it's really clean. Some people will take a vinegar and water solution, and I would do like 1 part vinegar and maybe 9 or 10 parts water. Yeah, lightly damp it with a towel and just kind of lightly wipe the interior. What that'll do is maybe help, number one, prevent any mold, but also clean up any powder or eggs.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's very, very light because you don't want that acidity screwing with the wood either. But you don't really see, I haven't really seen tobacco beetles much.
I haven't come across them in a while.
Yeah, the industry's done a really good job of mitigating that. So, but no, I mean, this piece is awesome. The inauguration's tomorrow. The client, I think he's probably waiting right now. We'll gift it to him and he'll present it to Governor Landry tomorrow. And I'm sure he'll love it because he's a big cigar smoker.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So I don't know who for people who are from Louisiana, if they're pro or anti Landry, at least he's pro cigar. In fact, I think most of the candidates this year were pro cigar. So we were, for us, we were happy with anyone.
For us.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cool that you know, we have a cigar friendly governor in office, and John Bell Edwards was a big cigar smoker too. So
Okay, I didn't realize that.
yeah, he's a big cigar smoker, and so I don't know. I mean, I guess Louisiana governors over the years have historically been connected to the cigar culture as well, which I think is pretty cool.
Didn't Huey P. Long have a cigar usually?
Oh, you know, I don't know about that. I'll have to look into that. I mean, he looks like he would, but I don't know. I'll have to research that. Any other information about this humidor that you want to share? You got carved on the bottom. Oh, let's talk about the bottom. You and we'll show better pictures, but what did you do on the bottom?
Well, we just carved a message about you presenting it, and we put our...
I'm going to see if we can...
years ago, when I came in to help Dave... There you go. Years ago, I came in to help Dave, and I'll do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So he needed a builder to build tables. So I said, look, I'll go do that. I've always wanted to do that. So he gave me a training. I went in there and started building them. After a while, I'm building the same thing over and over. And after the table was done, I started putting my name on the bottom. So at some point, I decided I'm going to draw a little crawfish down here. It was a crude little crawfish, just quick with a marker. And only me and the finisher knew it. He'd see it. And then one day, they kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And one day Dave goes, what are you doing on the bottom of the tables? I'm like, what? That's my signature. So I would sign it with a crawfish similar to this, hand drawn every time.
Oh, what?
So every one of our Cypress tables has a big crawfish. The whole bottom of the table is a big drawn crawfish.
That's awesome.
And I can send you a few pictures so you can maybe put on the podcast.
Yeah.
But so I started drawing the crawfish, and that became our signature. And we've had customers, if we were so busy that I couldn't draw one, they'd get their table and they'd say, hey, I got my table. Where's the crawfish? I've been to customers' houses and either drawn it upside down at their house or have their family flip it over and draw it in front. They go, wait, you just draw that? I'm like, yeah, just draw it. So my daughter got to the point where she was going to art school and college, and she's like, I need a job for the apprenticeship or something like that. So I said, well, come and you'll work with us. So she worked in the office for a while, shuffling papers, and she kept telling me, Dad, I want to work in the back. I'm like, no, you don't. It's hot back there. It's dangerous, you know. Some woodworkers don't have all their fingers, you know.
Oh, no.
And she said, I really want to work back there. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I brought her back there and I put the screws to her. I worked her. She had an apprenticeship, and she hated the work, but she knew what it led to.
Mm-hmm.
She was cleaning floors, she was sanding, and then she started building, and she was very good at it. So I'm like, if you want to do this, I got other things I could do in this company. So she started building the tables, and then she'd say, Dad, come draw the crawfish. So I'd come draw the crawfish.
Nice.
At one point she goes, I need to draw this crawfish myself. So I said, let's see what you got. I was like, that's not going to work. So she worked on it. And then one day she's like, how about this? I'm like, you're getting there. You can start drawing them. So now she draws all the crawfish.
Okay, cool.
And every now and again she'll say, Dad, just come draw crawfish for for fun. And I'll go back there and go, okay, where do I start here? So we built this 24-foot table one time. It was two big tables put together. And I said, let's have a draw off. So we flipped the tables over and we drew to see who could draw it faster, But that's our thing. So we carved the crawfish on the bottom, put our name, and presented by Habana Port. Hopefully it's all spelled right. Dave was doing this probably at midnight.
No, I was double checking that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what I would suggest is everybody sign it, maybe you sign it and the rep and.
Well, we'll ask the client, but I think that'd be cool. Yeah. But no, this came out awesome. In fact, hopefully, not to put you on the spot, we'd like to commission another piece for ourselves, same exact model, just as like a museum piece. Because I don't know, I got to maybe pitch it to Pops. Make this like a tradition, a company tradition, where we commission you to make a new humidor for every incoming Louisiana governor.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Because the first one's always the hardest,
Yep.
Dave made a lot of humidors over the year, but this one was special. He put everything into this one, No,
and I can tell. I mean, just looking at the craftsmanship, and I've seen a lot of humidors over the decades.
Yeah.
this is one of the coolest pieces, if not the coolest humidor I've ever seen.
When I first got the information from you, I'm thinking a humidor, about a 50 humidor.
Yeah.
And I looked at the size. I was like, wait a second, that's 20 inches by 15 or whatever it is. I'm like, that box is going to be huge. So my daughter started building it, and she's like, Dad, that's a big humidor.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Dave's big thing, he's like, look, that's going to be a heavy lid. I got to figure out these hinges. So when it opens, it holds the lid up, because what are you going to do? Have it flop over, have to hold it while you're looking for your cigar? So he spent a lot of time doing these hinges. And cypress is a softer wood, so he got some special screws to make it stick.
Oh.
And he did a great job with it. So
that was one challenge, huh? Accounting for just the material.
This is, we do a lot of different woodworking projects, but something like this, you kind of microscope, you're zooming in to the little details that you have to do.
So just to convey to, I guess, the beginner like myself that doesn't really know woodwork, this wasn't just an easy job. I mean, this looks like a simple kind of cube. There's a lot more that goes on with this, and lot of work and planning.
Well, it's like the finish only took, a few hours, but it took us years to perfect this finish.
Oh.
Just the finish on our tables, second to none. You can buy a lot of people build stuff in their garage, beautiful stuff, but they're not on the crunch like we are. They're not having to turn around something in so many, days or weeks or months. So they can build it, and what they do is build a great product, nice craftsmanship, and then they slop on a clear or stain it with some stain that just, the finish kills their workmanship. So the finish is what we pride ourselves on in the finish, to have it and to look. You wanted Louisiana, you got Louisiana here. Don't get bored of Louisiana than Cypress, and it's got a crawfish on it.
Exactly. No, it screams flag. It screams Louisiana. It screams Acadiana, which to me is like the stereotypical but beautiful part of Louisiana, right? Think about the crawfish. I mean, some of the best crawfish comes from that region. Some of the best people. I mean, just salt of the earth. I mean, it's awesome. So I'm excited about it, and I'm not even getting it. Yeah. So I'm hopefully our client can maybe get some video of the reaction from Governor
I'd like to
Landry.
see that. So, and then like to build it, I told my daughter, I said, build two, just in case. Dave goes haywire with the carving part. Yeah, we have a backup. So we have another one at the shop that we're going to make for our office. Yeah. To put our cigars, because we get cigars and we just leave them in their boxes. They're going to be smoked soon, so it doesn't really matter. But we want to have something nice in there to put our cigars in.
Yeah, and to kind of go back to the quality of your company, right? You guys aren't just like these cheap craftsman type carpenters that you might get, I don't know, maybe from China or wherever. People are going to pay a premium when shopping with you. In fact, we bought a rocker from you guys years ago, and I love the...
For your mom.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And she still uses it. I mean, you get what you pay for, and they're beautiful pieces. They're going to last you generations.
Yeah. Well, the big thing in the industry for years, everything went to China, production. And then IKEA came in. But who wants to put together their furniture? I see more memes about trying to put together furniture, coming from IKEA. But the thing is, a lot of furniture on the market, you can drive around Airline Highway where we are in Baton Rouge, and there's tons of furniture stores, but most of them do not have solid wood. And people want solid wood. Right. Especially after the 2016 flood, we sold our entire inventory of tables in a few days. What? And that's like, great thing, right? You sold all your product. What? Guess what? We got to make more of it. We got to juggle all this. Yeah. And we had a fire right around that time, same time. Yeah. So everybody wanted solid wood, and we still have customers coming back in. Look, we finally got our house ready. We're ready to buy furniture. Okay. We want solid wood because we're not going to have all our furniture blow up like all the press wood we had. Veneers and all that, they just don't work when it gets wet. Right. And it's almost a bad thing because somebody will buy something and it'll last forever. Oh, yeah. So they're not coming back and buying another. Right. We're not planning obsolescence here.
That's right.
But a lot of times what will happen, a young couple will come in, two professionals just starting their career, they'll buy a little table. They'll move up in their profession. They'll come in, buy a bigger table. Their kids start getting to the age where they'll give them the old table.
Yeah.
We've have several families that come in, and they're bringing their daughters, they're bringing their sons in who are getting married, and their gift is a nice cypress table and some chairs. They come in and they're like, talk to Doug, talk to Raymond in Baton Rouge, talk to Daniel, and my dad works at the store in Lafayette. They can get you what you want.
Yeah.
They can pick the legs, they can pick the style, they can pick the color, all that. And then we sign the bottom with the big crawfish, and we put, from mom and dad, whatever they want us to put on the bottom, so it's more like that.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I've always loved your attention to quality and craftsmanship. In fact, you were integral into helping us move our humidor from our old store to our current store now.
You got me out of, I had not done hard labor in a while, and you were like, Doug, can you move all this? And I'm like.
And your associates, what?
I said, look, if my boy Matt works for us, and he's a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
He does sales for us. He'll get on the roof and fix a roof. He'll fix light bulbs, electrical. He built our office out. He'll do whatever it takes. Yeah. He likes to just keep moving and doing it. I was like, if Matt can do it, Lou, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. I called Matt. I said, look, Matt, my buddy Lou wants to get his whole humidor moved. I sent him a picture. He goes, I'll help you. So we went in there, and you told us the day to show up. We ripped it all out and brought it over here.
And I don't think people realize the execution, like the downtime, was very minimal. I mean, for listeners, moving a shop to a new location is an ordeal.
It's a task. Yes.
And we were only down, I think we closed the Saturday afternoon right before Memorial Day in 2022, and we reopened that Wednesday. So, like, from a business standpoint and cash flow interruption, it was minimal. And it was awesome. And you were a huge part of that. So thank you for that.
I told Matt, I said, look, we got to get in there and we got to get this done. He can't afford us to drag this out for days. Yeah. And Matt's like, all the shelves? I'm like, all the shelves.
Yeah.
We have to put him in there, figure out how he wants them, mount them to the wall. And then Sam was there, and he wanted shelves way up. I'm like, all right, let's figure if we can do it,
Yeah.
We put those shelves way up there. I don't know if you're utilizing them right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's extra storage, right? So we have, like, room to add more facings to our already, large presence here. But and then you helped us with the Davidoff case.
Oh, that's right.
That was another,
tape.
Oh, my gosh. So people who walk into our store and see that Davidoff case, you were instrumental in disassembling it at our old store, moving it over here, and then reassembling it here.
And Matt was key on that because he had to figure out how to undo the lights, put the lights back.
Yeah. So
shout out to Matt for sure. He did the heavy lifting, really.
Yeah. Well, no, shout out to you guys. So, no, thank you for doing this, especially in the time crunch, because they weren't expecting him to get elected, or win it outright. So, we didn't have much time, and you guys were pulled through. So, thanks again. So if you would, we have one final segment that it's a rapid fire. Did you want to be a part of that? It's 5 simple questions.
Oh,
nothing hard.
You're going to put me on the spot
now.
now.
Yeah. So if you would, let's proceed. So I got to pull up the questions because now I've been forgetting them. So number 1, Tabasco, Crystal, or other?
Pass.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, you're talking about hot sauce.
Yeah, hot sauce.
I don't really use that much hot sauce.
Okay. All right. So we'll pass on that.
Dave would go for Slap Your Mama or something like that, or Dave's Insanity. I think there's a hot sauce called Dave's Insanity. He likes the really hot stuff. I'm the other way.
Okay. Fair enough. Number 2, favorite vacation destination?
West Coast.
Okay.
Driving up Highway 1, I think it is, and seeing the ocean is breathtaking.
Okay.
So
you've been out
East
there?
Coast. Oh, yeah. I've seen the East Coast. Nice. I've seen the Gulf, obviously, my whole life. Went to Biloxi a lot, Galveston. My boy Robert and I used to vacation with the other guys in the band in Padre Island. Loved it. But once you see that West Coast, it just took our breath away.
How far north did you go?
My son was stationed in San Francisco.
Okay.
So we got in a little minivan, loaded up, went to Dallas, went down highway, what's that famous highway? 61 or whatever.
Oh, Route 66?
66.
Yeah.
We went down there. We went to the Grand Canyon. We went into L.A., and we drove one all the way to San Francisco.
Wow.
In a little minivan. And I was opposed to minivans, Dodge minivans. I was like, that is a soccer mom car. What am I going to do with that? but he needed it because he had all the stuff.
Yeah.
I was sold after that because I was hard on that little rental car. I don't want to say the brand.
Yeah.
And at the end of the trip, I think those brakes were shot. But we stayed on 61. We went through Oxnard and all that. And the GPS keeps pulling you off to get you on the main highway. And I kept pulling back because you can't take, it's not directly the whole way, but most of it is.
Okay.
So we kept driving back to 1, and I wanted to hit the ocean the whole way. When we got to Big Sur, I was blown away. So a few years later, my whole family, Dave, his wife, his children, me, my daughter, my wife, our children, we went visit him for a few days, and we went to Big Sur and all that. That's definitely one of my favorite vacations.
That's cool.
Spots.
Number 3, the ideal person you would want to smoke a cigar with, alive or deceased?
I would like to smoke a cigar with Randy Newman, and I don't even know if he smokes, but I think he'd be an interesting guy to talk to.
Who's that?
The singer, Randy Newman. He's the one that wrote the song that became big after the floods, after Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4, your desert island cigar. Only one cigar.
Padron 45, hands down.
Nice. Number 5, who would you want to see on a future podcast here?
A future podcast, like somebody local or
Anyone. Who would you want me to interview?
I would like to see Caleb Morris, my buddy's partner, go head to head with you because he'd make a great guest. He's also a great host of a podcast.
Okay.
He does not stumble. He can back himself into a corner and walk his way out like that.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Yep.
I'd love to have him on.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, thanks, Doug. I appreciate you. Thanks again for the humidor and being a friend and great client of ours. So
yeah, one thing I just want to touch on again, the social aspect of cigar smoking.
Yeah.
You know, I said I don't keep cigars anymore. You store them, or whoever I'm buying from. If I'm in Texas, they store my cigars. I buy them and smoke. But part of going to get them, coming in and you're not busy, me and you have a chat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just talking the stories, talking about old cigars, talking about music, different things.
Right.
That's one of the best things about smoking for me.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's why I love patronizing a lot of different shops, not just in the cigar industry, but other, like, the butcher or whoever. Instead of just going online, I want to connect, and especially if it's a small business, talk to that person because they have a lot of insight information, and you can just, shoot the breeze and get to know that.
And I'm a dual city person right now, 3 if you count Austin. But I'm in Lafayette most of the time right now. But when I'm in Baton Rouge, I'm in your store getting cigars. And I'll probably be seeing you a lot more because I'll be in Baton Rouge a lot more. But I like different shops have different feels in it.
That's right.
At your old shop, I spent more time in the little room because it was right there. And I met some interesting guys in there, of all walks of life. Because when you're in there, it's the brotherhood of the leaf.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters.
It really is. And that's what I try to tell or advise people, especially if you move to a new town. If you're a cigar smoker, find that local shop with a lounge because you'll get a real pulse of that new area. You can network really easily and meet new people. So cigar shops are good for that.
Robert and I hit a lot of cigar shops in our travels. And some of them we go in, we buy a cigar, and we leave. Some of them we go in, meet the people, sit down. They'll offer, one shop in around Sugarland, they were like, y'all need to come back. It's a Korean lady, I think, that owns the shop.
Okay.
Like, y'all need to come back Saturday. We have a barbecue right here. Y'all welcome to come. We smoke, we barbecue. It's just nice, talking to different people that I might not ever come in contact with,
That's right.
So that's what I love the Brotherhood of the Leaf.
That's right. Well, I appreciate that. Now, look, how can people contact you or get to know Allwood?
Allwood, we have a website, and that's allwoodfurniture.com.
Okay.
You can send me an email. What normally happens if somebody wants something custom, they'll email me.
Okay.
Tell me what they want. Give me a little spark. I'll make a drawing, present them with a drawing. They like that. I'll give them a price on it.
Yeah.
Doug at allwoodfurniture.com. Pretty simple.
And we'll tag you guys too with our social feeds too. So, well, again, Doug, thanks again. Appreciate you. And everyone, until the next cigar, take care.